And now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
Minutes after Robert Kennedy's victory speech in the California primary, panic ripped through the hotel ballroom.
Is there a doctor in the house, please? It's very important.
5 doctors responded, including Dr. Ross Miller, who described the scene to CBS News correspondent Terry Drinkwater.
Can you describe the senator's wounds?
Well, they were a mass of blood, and he had head injuries. The extent of them could not be ascertained immediately.
Dr. Miller was my father. He had campaigned for Kennedy and always told us he was there that night, but we had no visual proof until we searched the CBS News archives earlier this year.
Was he fully conscious, doctor?
No.
Kennedy's friend Paul Schrade was also shot.
There's still a dent there. The bullet went into the first layer skull and out.
You're lucky.
Very lucky. If I'd been an inch taller, it really would have got me.
Dr. Marvin Ursher saw Schrade bleeding on the floor.
You check him. There's another doctor there.
Right.
Who was that doctor? Do you know?
I don't know.
It was just that chaotic.
Right.
So this is what we found in the CBS News archives.
How many others were hit, doctor?
I know of 2 others. I also took care of Paul Schrade.
Never knew.
He had a deep laceration of the forehead.
Paul, to see this and to see how he knew your name.
Yeah.
And he...
Well, this is a real surprise for me. How can I express my gratitude for that, except to say to you that you had a great father.
All right. Is it just me, or does Paul Schrade sound like Scott Adams? His voice is...
Oh, that I don't know.
But
I have put my finger in that dent in his head.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, I it's an odd thing. I'd never seen that that finger go in there, but he asked me if I wanted to feel it, and I said, sure, why not? So I put my finger in there to feel. I guess anybody could do it if you want to put that in there. But Schrade lived near me. He passed away 2 years ago, but that's how I got to become the advocate for him at the Zohran parole hearing, the last one with Robert Kennedy Jr. and Robert Kennedy Jr. Bobby III was there too. And it was successful. I was representing Paul Schrade because we had become close friends, and he knew that I knew the case pretty well.
By the way, those of you who are confused right now, if you are watching this on replay and you're like, what are they talking about? We're talking about a video clip that played at the beginning. And if it is not there now, that means that we got copyright claimed by YouTube and I had to delete it. So you could always go over to our locals link in the description, or to Rumble, where you'll be able to see the clip in question. I just wanted to let everybody know.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, it seems like a fair use news little clippy, but who knows these days? You never know what they're going to do. Eric's right. Oh, yeah. So anyway, so Paul Schrade and I became pretty close, and I had written this script about RFK must die. And he sent it to RFK, who apparently still has RFK Jr., that is. But nevertheless, in my exploration of this case, I end up being someone who's testifying at Zohran's parole hearing. I mean, it's just, it would be like the equivalent of me, meeting Oswald years later, trying to get him out of jail. But Zohran has been in there for so long. And the case has so many holes in it, obviously more holes than Kennedy had, and more bullets than were counted for. And the recent release of the JFK documents by Tulsi Gabbard, as I said before, I'm going to go through them and have these updates as I find something. This is not a complete episode on RFK Jr. I think we have a couple of episodes up on the channel, 1 or 2 or
4.
Oh, 4. I didn't know. Okay.
I believe there were Zohran and RFK.
Right. Okay. Right.
Related.
Right. Now, this is an update of what I've been finding. As I promised you, as I find stuff, I will attempt to explain it as best I can. And there was the background of this thing is there was a girl named Sandy Serrano and also a guy named Vincent DePiero. Vincent DePiero was a maitre d'. Sandy Serrano was a Kennedy young girl supporter. Sandy Serrano famously told Sandra Van Olker, the newscaster, that's him on the right, actually, who is from NBC News. I don't know if you have this clip here. Is this a clip or a photo?
This is a photo.
Oh, okay. Well, there is a clip of her talking to Sandra Van Olker of NBC News, where she claims that a girl in a polka dot dress and a couple of Middle Eastern guys walked up past her on the fire escape stairs when she was sitting outside before the Kennedy speech, and came running down the stairs afterwards, yelling, "We shot him, we shot him, we shot him." So Sandra Serrano is interrogated quite harshly by Sergeant Hank Hernandez, who later becomes a lieutenant. And Sergeant Hank Hernandez and Captain, he wasn't a captain at the time, Lieutenant Manny Pena, were both CIA endorsed and trained intelligence operatives for LAPD. Pena, in fact, trained at Camp Peary itself. And Hank Hernandez's job was to take care of, that's Manny Pena right there. Hernandez was trained to use the lie detector, not as a lie detecting device, but as an intimidation device. In other words, he will look at it and say, "You're lying about this." And it doesn't matter what the readings are saying. That's Hank Hernandez right there. The two of them were put in charge of Special Unit Senator, SUS, and that was the LAPD stovepiping of information regarding the RFK assassination in LA at the Ambassador Hotel on June 4th, 1968. So these two intelligence officers were the ones who had to intimidate, didn't have to do it, but they intimidated witnesses that didn't fit in, just like in the JFK case. Instead of Secret Service, it was these two intelligence officers for LAPD that took it upon themselves, or ordered by others probably, to intimidate witnesses, to bottle up the investigation, and to get rid of conspiracy offshoots, Eric. Unfortunately for these two guys, there's also Sergeant Paul Sharaga of LAPD, who also saw the people leaving the scene yelling they shot him, and put out an APB for the girl in the polka dot dress. The girl in the polka dot dress was apparently with Sirhan right next to him on this, where he was on the tray stacking, what is it, like a tray stacking table, a vertical thing where you put those giant trays in a restaurant. You know, those big serving trays? It's like a tray stack. It's got wheels on the bottom. And that's where Sirhan was when Kennedy, RFK approached. There's steam tables on the right. And according to the witnesses, he never got within 3 feet of Kennedy from the front of him. And when Thomas Noguchi does his perfect autopsy, as he called it, it turns out that Kennedy is killed by a gun, 22, a point range, literally touching the back of his head. Literally, the shot is in the back of his shoulder going upward. This is a little press conference with Ted Chirac on the left, and I think this is his lawyer. Ted Chirac famously made a documentary called The Second Gun, which I highly recommend. And this is a press conference on the release of the movie. This is a number of years later in the 70s. But I don't know, you could play that clip, I guess. Let's see what they say.
If Euchre is between Senator Kennedy and Sirhan, then it still has to be explained how in the world he got behind the senator to continue any such shooting. Because he was here, if the senator did turn, he'd still have to be over to the 90 degree to the right to get the shots from behind and at a 30-degree angle upward. And all 4, as far as we can determine, all 4 of the bullets that entered either the senator's body or his clothing, 1 entered his clothing, 3 entered his body, all of them were from the right, the rear, at a 30-degree angle upward. Now, this is quite inconceivable, even from a logical standpoint, that this could occur from a man standing in front of you. Now people say, well, maybe he was closer than 7 or 8 feet or 2 feet or 1 feet. Understand, you have to get to 1 to 3 inches maximum distance to get the powder marks behind the right ear. Not 1 foot, not 2 feet, not 3 feet, not 7 or 8. 1 to 2 to 3 inches from his ear. No other way could those powder marks have been left on the mastoid behind the right ear. And there was no powder in the front of that ear. Therefore, it was again substantiating it's from the rear.
Yeah, I mean, what Noguchi went the extra mile. He took pig heads and he shot, 22 at various distances from behind the ear of multiple pig heads, and photographed the gunpowder spread to match the back of RFK's head. That's one of the things Noguchi did to come up with the distance. This is not some random thing that Noguchi invented. He said it's between 1 to 3 inches and possibly touching the back of his skull. But all of them are upward at a 33-degree angle into the ceiling. This is Thomas Noguchi obviously describing that. The LAPD famously removed the ceiling tiles. This is Noguchi testifying at the Baxter Ward hearing. Baxter Ward became a supervisor, LA County supervisor, just to do this hearing, and became head of the obscure coroner's department so he could put Noguchi and these others in a hearing in Los Angeles. Here's a famous Baxter Ward as a subject of my movie. He was the #1 newscaster for ABC News, bigger than Tom Brokaw, who was local on NBC at the time. Baxter Ward was the highest paid anchorman in America at the time of this assassination. And he begins to bring on guests on the show and eventually feels that he must quit his job as the highest paid anchorman in America and run for county supervisor of Los Angeles, which he does, and he wins. And the whole purpose of it is to have hearings into the assassination of RFK. And he does have these hearings with Noguchi and brings his case to life. Now, getting back to what the polka dot dress girl was all about, the LAPD put out an APB. They claimed they couldn't find her. And that became a bone of contention because they wanted to wrap this case up, Eric. They did not want these conspiracy theories. They kept saying, we're not going to have another Dallas here in terms of what they perceived to be conspiracy theories. Now, Noguchi said, we're not going to have another Dallas here in terms of a botched autopsy. So his intention, he brought in the head of each military coroner's department, the head of the Air Force, the head of the Marines, the head of the Army, of the top coroners of each branch, who were all there overseeing this autopsy, unlike the situation with JFK, where it was this closed door, crazy thing being ordered by admirals on what to dissect and what not to dissect. Noguchi, who has done autopsies on every famous person in LA, from John Belushi to Marilyn Monroe, said this was the most perfect autopsy he ever did. So what's his name? Ted Chirac, in his movie The Second Gun, finds out that, in fact, Thane Eugene Caesar is indeed the assassin of RFK. The security guard, who was a George Wallace supporter, had the same matching gun, was standing right behind RFK, leading him into the death triangle. This is Thane Eugene Caesar. He died just a few years back. RFK Jr. famously tried to see him, but Dan Moldea became his handler, a nonfiction crime writer who apparently became the deep state handler of Thane Eugene Caesar. Now, RFK famously yanks off the tie of Thane Eugene Caesar as he's spinning into his death spiral to go down to the ground. And he ripped the tie. It was a breakaway tie. It was part of his security uniform. And Thane Eugene Caesar, realizing in that photo that Eric just showed, did not have his tie, actually went back to the crime scene hours later, and his tie was still on the ground. He said hello to all the boys, and they didn't seem to mind that he was taking his own tie from a crime scene. There's also an FBI agent named William Bailey who gave a full statement that he himself showed up at the crime scene and he was able to indicate there were bullets in the double doors, the divider of the double doors to the pantry. He examined those. What's that?
This is Stain. Do you want to hear from him?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
There was one other person who claimed to have been a witness, a guy by the name of Don Schumann. And did you know Schumann at all?
No, I did not.
Now, did you shoot Bob Kennedy?
No, I did not.
Considering your position relative to Kennedy, could you have fired your gun at him without being seen?
Yes, I could have.
Is it possible that your gun went off accidentally?
No.
Okay, once again, did you shoot Bobby Kennedy?
No, I did not.
Did you shoot Bobby Kennedy intentionally or accidentally?
Neither.
Now, over the years, a lot of people have, when they talk about the possibility of a second gun at the Bob Kennedy murder, your name comes up. Why do you think that is?
Because I was the closest person to him that had a gun.
And you have been falsely accused all these years. And how does that make you feel? How has this affected you, your life?
Well, you almost have to go into hiding in a way. You don't want anybody to know where you live, especially the news media. They tried to find me. I've had Inquirer, I've had the Globe, I've had a lot of people try to find me, and basically they couldn't because I didn't make it very obvious where I was because I didn't want to be harassed by anybody.
And yeah, Dan Moldea.
Yeah, that's Dan Moldea doing a lie detector examination of, he never released it, of Thane Eugene Caesar. It was done by the president of the American Association of Lie Detection, who later turned out to be a fraud and had no expertise and was kicked out of the organization. But Dan Moldea, to protect, for reasons I have no other than a deep state handler, became his blocker, so to speak, and wanted to charge RFK Jr. $25,000 to do an interview or meet with him for a couple of minutes, and the price kept changing. It was never going to happen, and RFK Jr. is well aware of this and has talked about it publicly, how he realizes it was Thane Eugene Caesar who did the shooting. There's very little doubt about it, and you could see him stumbling there. At one point with the LAPD, he lied and contradicted himself in his own interviews, saying he never drew his gun. In other interviews, he said he drew his gun, but fell backwards with his gun out onto his backside with his gun drawn. Dan Schumann, who he's referring to, was a reporter for NBC local news, who reported that he was the witness that witnessed Thane Eugene Caesar just shooting his gun into the back of Kennedy. He repeated this immediately on air, Don Schumann, and that became a problem for LAPD. They eventually got him fired from NBC local, but he never deviated from the story. And of course, this is the receipt of the gun that was the murder weapon that he claimed to have sold months before the assassination. And you could see that on the day of September 6, 1968, he actually sold the gun to a guy who retired from the top secret Skunk Works factory and laboratory over here in Burbank, where you needed top secret security clearance. It was the group that created the U-2 spy plane and all the Black Hawk and everything. And Caesar had a top security clearance to work at Skunk Works nearby here in Burbank. So much more on this case, which has never been explored, which I explore in my script, RFK Must Die. And, you know, I'd hope to get it made, but that's a story for another day. Getting back to the girl in the polka dot dress, that became a problem for LAPD. So what they did was they actually put, this is crazy, Sandra Serrano was put into a room with, I think, like 8 or 9 polka dot dresses on the wall.
A lineup.
There was a lineup of, yeah, it was crazy. She started crying. First, she breaks down sobbing. You can listen to the audio. I don't know if we have it on locals, but LAPD has preserved the audio interrogation by Hank Hernandez of Sandra Serrano as a testament onto how to flip a witness. And if you're as good as Hank Hernandez, this has been kept by LAPD, not as a souvenir, but as a document on how to do it, because he breaks her down. Now, this is a 35, 40-year-old man with a 18-year-old girl, and eventually she breaks down sobbing, and he's victorious over defeating her and wearing her down. But at one point, they look at her through a two-way mirror while she's examining 6 different polka dot dresses to identify the dress. And she says, it's none of these. Although she said it did have that kind of embroidery on the far right one, that little bib thing there. I mean, women would know more about this than I would, but okay. So there is a girl who is a Kennedy supporter named Valerie Schulte. Valerie Schulte was there standing next to Dr. Ross Miller. And I just want to go back a little bit because Dr. Ross Miller will attend to my friend Paul Schrade, who's lying there. Not only did he get the bullet hit him right in the middle of the forehead here.
Is it Valerie or Kathy?
Kathy Fulmer is another woman. Valerie Schulte, I'll get to in a second. That photo that we showed of the girl in the dress, which I just put up on Twitter, the blonde is Valerie Schulte, and we'll get into her in a moment. But the situation with the wounds of all these people, they're scattered behind RFK. The first one to be shot is Paul Schrade by Sirhan. He empties his gun into 4 or 5 different people that survived their wounds. There's also bullets in the ceiling. And as William Bailey said, the actual FBI agent William Bailey said, he dug 2 slugs out of the divider in the pantry between the swinging doors. That divider, of course, was later destroyed by LAPD. They said they didn't have the room for it. The ceiling panels that had the bullet holes in them were destroyed by LAPD. They said they didn't have the room for it, even though they kept entire cars from crimes in storage. Anyway, so the situation becomes that, Sirhan's arrested, and Thane Eugene Caesar, this was one of the only times he ever worked for the Ace security firm. Despite him lying about that, he has sold his gun to this guy afterwards, and the investigators later find the gun, and the gun still exists to this day. They got it out of a pond. It's all rusty and everything, but there is a guy, a former cop, who has the gun. I don't know what it's worth or what he wants to do with it, but he got it out of that pond. The guy retired. The guy who was a co-worker to Thane Eugene Caesar at Skunk Works retired and moved to Idaho. And it was a lake outside of his house that they found. I think it was Idaho. And it was a pond outside of his house that he threw the gun in the lake. He didn't throw it in there. Apparently kids or police stole or ransacked his house when this became a news story. That's a story for another day. But what Michelle Miller is doing in that opening clip, which may or may not be there, depending on how Hunley handles this, Michelle Miller is a biracial far-left newscaster for CBS. She went to Howard University. Her father, the guy who's Dr. Ross Miller, is a doctor in Compton. He becomes quite militant during this period, and becomes like the equivalent of the black militant Black Panther type. The father, the daughter never reveals who her mother is. Will never ever discuss who her natural birth mother is. This is Ross Miller, who originally. What's that?
This is a younger shot of her father.
Right. There's a younger shot of her father, probably around that time. So Ross Miller is not that he's involved in this thing at all, but he may be involved in this because on page 80 of the recently released FBI document that I'm referring to, which you see here, this is from the recent release by Tulsi Gabbard. On the second page of this, if I can get into this bombshell piece that is the cause of this episode, this is LA 56-156 document. A Negro doctor came in and began to administer to Mr. Schrade. This is Dr. Ross Miller. And someone insisted that he look at the senator. At this point, he saw his girlfriend, Valerie Schulte, Eric, standing near Ira Goldstein. Ira Goldstein is gut shot. He's laying down. He will also recover. He's shot in the stomach, who was wounded. Shortly thereafter, someone placed partitions around the wounded senator, and he could not see him again, that meaning Ross Miller. But he stayed in this room for 1 hour, staying near his girlfriend, Valerie Schulte, who was very upset and who was sitting on the floor. She was recuperating from a broken leg. Now, that is a bombshell piece of information that I have never heard of before, that Dr. Ross Miller had an interracial blonde knockout girlfriend named Valerie Schulte, who may or may not be the mother of Michelle Miller from CBS News, Hunley. Okay.
While I was preparing, I did get a couple things about Michelle Miller. I thought you might.
Okay, go ahead. Let's see.
First off, she claims that this is the only picture of her with her mother, her real mother and father.
Okay.
And I thought you'd find that interesting.
That's funny. Yeah, she is that a real picture, the way she keeps it?
That this is a picture. Hold on, it's from her book, and I have her talking about her mother as well, which is very
it's clearly a sore note that she's biracial, Eric.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is a very illuminating. This is her talking about her mother, her claim later.
Age of 24, I was surprised when my father urged me, go find your mother. Because as far as I knew, she'd given birth to me, handed me to Dad, and walked out of my life forever. Daddy's side embraced me with love. My mother's side, to my knowledge, to this day, doesn't even know I exist. I grew up with longing and struggled to find a sense of belonging. 2 decades later, I would finally meet the mother who abandoned me. I would learn that her proud working-class Latino family had vehemently opposed her even dating a Black man. To them, what possible life could he ever offer her? Never.
So that's her claim.
Right. Her father married a Latina and had who just passed away a couple of years ago, who is not the mother that I'm talking about. She is the only child of a white woman. This is a complete bullshit story. Her stepmom is the Latina she's referring to, who had her own children before she came into the marriage, and also had other children with Miller, Dr. Miller, and her name was Diaz, I think, or Hernandez. I forget her last name, but here she is, I think, on the right, and that's also her dad in later years. This woman on the right has no connection to Michelle Miller, except that she's her stepmom and raised these separate children in a separate family, Eric.
No, well, that's why I wanted to share that. I thought you might find that interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. But the thing that's interesting in the story, this is the grandmother on the left. This is the mother of Dr. Ross Miller, and that she considers that to be her natural family. She becomes completely radicalized at Howard University, complete Black Power advocate. The father becomes a Black Power advocate. They become really, radicalized for what it's worth. So this becomes a bone of her contention. She looks completely African American there. So it turns out that Valerie Schulte, who may or may not be her mother, who was clearly, according to LAPD, the girlfriend of Dr. Ross Miller in this bombshell document released by Tulsi Gabbard, it turns out that Valerie Schulte will later date someone else involved in the investigation. This is Valerie Schulte. Now, Valerie Schulte is wearing a green and yellow polka dot dress and has blonde hair, and she's from Santa Barbara. She goes to the University of Santa Barbara. She is a blonde bombshell at the time, and she has this dress on. So LAPD says, can we get Valerie to say she was the girl in the polka dot dress? And she will testify at the Sirhan trial that indeed she was the girl in the polka dot dress. Unfortunately for LAPD, every witness, including Miller, who says they saw the girl in the polka dot dress, says that she's not the girl in the polka dot dress we saw, which is a problem because the girl they see has like a kind of a Middle Eastern nose. This is from LAPD's photographs, by the way. Black hair, and is wearing a black dress with tiny white polka dots, Eric. There's another problem. Valerie Schulte had a full cast on her leg with a crutch because she had broken her leg in a skiing accident and was not able to run down any stairs yelling, "We shot him, we shot him, we shot him," as Sandra Serrano had said in the Sandra Van Oker interview. And indeed, Vincent DiPiero and Sandy Serrano both said, as did others, this is not the girl in the polka dot dress. Okay, you can't blame LAPD for trying, Hunley, right? They wanted to wrap up this loose end, which was driving everyone insane. She testifies in the trial. She's an RFK girl who's there. She's just got out of the University of California, Santa Barbara, and she lives up there. The police go up and interview her, and she's clearly the girlfriend at the time of Dr. Miller, which is kind of interesting because I want to say 4 years later, she meets a guy named Thomas Kranz while working on the Muskie campaign in 1972. And she begins a relationship with Thomas Kranz. Now, who is Thomas Kranz? Thomas Kranz turns out to be the special prosecutor in the Sirhan case, working as a DA and special prosecutor, and he writes the famous Thomas Kranz report, which is the final document and cover-up of the entire case. That guy becomes her boyfriend. So not only is her boyfriend was Dr. Miller, her other boyfriend 4 years later, or maybe at the Muskie campaign in 1972, as he says, under his words, this became my girlfriend, Valerie Schulte, the girl in the polka dot dress who wasn't. Now, this becomes bizarre because Thomas Kranz is so close to the case. That's why it's weird that he's dating her. This is a witness who falsely testified, or she didn't falsely do anything. They were trying to put out that she was the girl in the polka dot dress, but nobody bought it. Now, you mentioned Kathy Fulmer. Kathy Fulmer was a girl who may have been the girl in the polka dot dress. She was a drug addict, ex-prostitute. They found her in a motel, and she wrote a statement in lipstick on the mirror. And this is a picture of Kathy Fulmer. They tried to put her, this is LAPD, they had her under arrest for prostitution and drug abuse, and they made her claim that she was the girl in the polka dot dress after the Valerie Schulte polka dot dress thing collapsed. Okay. She then goes back to a motel after this where she self-deletes, leaving in lipstick a message saying, "I did the best I could, and this is the result, God." And she writes in lipstick, and they find her either self-deleted or somebody deleted her in the motel soon afterwards. That's the end of Kathy Fulmer. This is the actual sketch of the girl in the polka dot dress from witnesses at the time. She had this long kind of nose, dark hair, kind of dark, maybe they said maybe Middle Eastern, but definitely swarthy, definitely not a girl and with blonde hair from Santa Barbara. And years later, this was about 2 years ago, I was going through a lot of newsreel footage that I'd never seen before, some outtakes, Eric. And I think I may have possibly stumbled by accident onto the actual girl in the polka dot dress. This is what I believe is the girl in the polka dot dress right here. This is a random crowd shot in back of inside the Ambassador that I located on my own. I don't know who this is. No one's ever identified her. I was the only one to ever find her. And I believe that these three photos that I've captured here are indeed the girl in the polka dot dress that they were looking for. Now, they did find a shopping bag off of Olympic a couple of days after the assassination with a wig, a polka dot dress, pantyhose, and women's shoes in a bag and they would look like they'd been used once. And this was in an alleyway, kind of near Oliver Stone's office by coincidence, which is just a random thing. But in that alleyway, they found a shopping bag with this wig, dress, polka dot dress. Now, this is another sample here that they're putting out as a possible polka dot dress. It is not. It was black with white dots, Eric. And everyone in the case has made their bones on the prosecution side. Now, what happened to Valerie Schulte? I never knew what happened to Valerie Schulte. Well, it turns out after dating all these incredibly powerful law enforcement people, she ends up as the legal counsel for the National Association of Broadcasters in Washington, D.C., this huge television lobby. And she's recently just retired a couple of years back.
2013, I think it is.
2013. Well, that's right. I mean, a couple of years back. But she retired as the counsel for the National Associations of Broadcasters. Here's a picture of her. I found her. After 3 decades, and she specialized in children's television. And I believe that she might be the mother of Michelle Miller. Wow. Wow. So that's the update that we have. I mean, I will break in with other updates as we go, but to me, on my deep dive, this is what I came up with last week. There's a lot of stuff there, obviously, but like I've said before, you can't just look at these documents. Nobody would know what this meant unless you had the background and information that I already knew to know what this thing meant, if it meant anything, to connect these dots. So people who think you just go in there and there's a document that tells you this and that, it's not true. They're contiguous documents that link to information that you already know, and you have to know the players in the game to actually make sense of anything. But these FBI reports, most of them I've had for many years on CD-ROM and stuff like that out of Sacramento, and the case is a lot easier to solve than the JFK case, Eric.
Oh, for sure. Now, not only do you need to have the knowledge to recognize things as they come along, just have it on the top of your mind and go, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense and all that. You need to have something else in order to truly investigate and explore a case like this. And what I recommend is America's Untold Stories coffee. Because when you're digging into the files, you need to have energy, and you've got to stay awake, you've got to stay alert, or things might slip by you. So I guarantee Mark is probably drinking either the Supreme Breakfast Blend or the Magic Bullet Blend, which helps assist him with his remarkable research. And I'd recommend everybody else check it out so you could stay alert too and try to keep up. It's a fantastic coffee. I'm very proud to have it. It is something literally, no, it does not go right through you, Chris Banks. Magic Bullet Blend does not go right through you, but that is funny. What do you have for people that don't drink coffee? Well, we have all kinds of merch. They're putting links in the chat right now if anybody wants to check that out. But right now, the coffee is right here for anybody who does enjoy coffee. There is tea. Also, there's a link for Dragon's Treasure tea inside of the description down below if you guys like coffee. But most people are like tea instead of coffee. Most people like this. You can scan this with your phone, and you can always check it out. Now, one other thing before we segue on, because we're talking about RFK right now, but it's not that different than JFK. And a lot of you might be interested in going to the JFK Lancer Conference that is coming up this November in Dallas. We wanted to let people know way ahead of time. Not everybody watches every episode.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to find out about it, whether you can make it in person or you can even buy a virtual ticket. There's a lot of luminaries there like Robert Groden, Larry Hancock. I believe more are going to be announced. Matt, too, that if you guys want to know about Tippett, that's Matt's game. He is a total Tippett guy. And again, you can scan the QR code here. Please make sure you use Untold 10 to get 10% off. And lets them know that we sent you, and it gives you the savings. So it's important all around for everybody. Please use that code. I hope you guys do consider that.
You know, there's a lot of crackpots. Oh, by the way, this guy Krantz that Eric showed was appointed by George Bush to be old man Bush to be associate director of FEMA as his payoff years later. So
he was also a deputy in the Department of the Army. He was like deputy counsel of the Department of the Army.
Yeah, these guys don't do this for nothing. I mean, there are these payoffs that you could never imagine that this guy had any connection to Bush or FEMA or anything else. But here is a demonstration of a guy who did stuff for them, writing this report. The report itself is really what he's getting quid pro quo for, the so-called Kranz report that completely muddied every single clue and every single thing, and completely did away with everything that I just said in that report. So he was paid for that with these political appointments, Eric.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see.
Can I just finish up on this guy Vance Bolter for a minute in Minnesota?
Oh, sure.
Because I just don't want this thing hanging out there in midair, because I'm getting more information on Vance Bolter, which apparently nobody cares about this story, Hunley, because the guy's so obviously deep state and so obviously the accountant, and I say that in a Ben Affleck kind of way. This is the inventory from his storage place and house that I'm just going to tell you now, because they said he was a down on your luck guy who had no job other than transporting cadavers and taking their eyeballs out when we last left Vance Bolter. And he'd written a book about the church, and he had a phony security company called Red Lion, and his wife was the CEO, and they arrested her with $10,000 in cash and a handgun, and he was texting her. But the description that they gave, besides the manifesto, in the letter, it's not a manifesto, it's a letter that he says Tim Walz wanted him to eliminate Amy Klobuchar so he could run for Senate of Minnesota.
Yeah, what was that about? I heard about that.
Totally clear what it was. It's in his letter. It's in his notes. They just said he's a nut. And nobody's buying that he's a nut, because nobody ever said he was a nut. And this has a wife and 5 kids and a $2.2 million home in an upscale area. And they just claim he was on the balls of his ass with no employment, and that he manages 7-Eleven. Okay. That's pretty good living if you manage a 7-Eleven. So it turns out that they did an inventory. They're not even discussing the letter. It's not a letter from Tim Walz or to Tim Walz. It's a written note that he wrote down that Tim Walz asked him to assassinate Amy Klobuchar so he could run for the Senate in Minnesota. Now, I don't know anything more than that. There's no details in his notes, or they're not releasing any of the details about the Klobuchar coup or assassination. However, the type of guy that they're describing is just some down on your luck, balls, nothing left to live for guy with no job and no money and no anything else. Okay, that's one way to look at it, but you can look at it this way. This is what they found in his storage facility, Eric. 5 body bags were found in his storage unit in Minneapolis, which he began renting June 10th, 2025. So this is not an old-time storage unit. He had 5 body bags. Not everybody has 5 body bags, but
now is that for his other job of
yes, which I'm going to get to. No. Oh, okay. I don't know. That's a great question. Good point.
Sorry.
Let's go to the balls of his ass. Number of vehicles owned. I have 1 or 2 vehicles. Hunley's probably got 1 or 2 vehicles. Police reported that Vance Bolter had 12 separate registered active vehicles to him.
Like a fleet. For his
fleet, 12 vehicles at his home in Green Isle, Minnesota. 12 different vehicles, all not up on cinder blocks. These are registered vehicles. In addition to the storage unit findings, search warrants executed at Bolter's Green Isle home reveal 48 firearms, pistols, revolvers, shotguns, rifles, boxes of ammunition, a camouflage suit, a note card with public officials' names, multiple computers, and nearly $18,000 in cash. Now, this doesn't sound like a normal guy who is not a professional hitman, which he clearly is. That's the point I'm trying to make. One of Bolter's vehicles, a Ford Explorer, modified to resemble a police cruiser, was found outside Hortman's house, containing 3 AK-47 rifles, a 9mm.
By the way, just that vehicle is probably worth like 80 grand or
absolutely.
Absolutely.
That had 3 AK-47s in it, a 9mm handgun, a medical kit, a Jarman GPS, and addresses of other public officials. This guy, this is just my personal, professional reporter's opinion, is a professional assassin. He had been to the Congo, he'd been to the Middle East, he'd been all over the world as per his bio in his security company bio. Take that as fact, my friend. He was in the Congo or roaming around the Congo or other countries for 3 years.
He might have been mercenary?
There's no hint of mercenary activity. There's no military background. There's no military stuff. Right. I would agree if the guy had served, but there's no record of that.
Okay.
Right. So he is on these missions going under the cover of the church to all these different hotspots in the world, Eric. And then this is what they find in his collection when they do get the search warrants and go in. To say that this guy's on the balls of his ass with a $2.2 million home, 18,000 in cash and his wife's just got 10 grand on her is of course preposterous. But nobody is covering this story at all.
I kind of wonder if he might not have been on our payroll at one point or another.
Well, we don't know because nobody's looking into it. We don't know who's
deliberately.
Nobody may be a gun for hire of various countries or whatever it is, which is a typical thing. Based on what they found, this is what I would immediately deduce, from these items and everything else based on his operations. Anyway, I just wanted to give an update on Vance Bolter before this story slinks away into the dark hole wormhole of the news.
Do you think he'll make it to trial?
Maybe not. I don't think so. There's just too much information there.
That'll be interesting. Speaking of not making it to trial, somebody sent me a story not long before we started. Where did I get that? I can't keep up with all the different stuff coming. Anyway, well, remember the people who bombed the Palm Springs unit?
The Palm Springs unit. The fertility clinic.
Fertility, yeah. So the opposite of abortion. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just confused by it.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody sent it to me that apparently the one who supplied the explosives and everything was found dead in prison.
Was he Chinese also, or was they just have one Chinese
I think it was the Chinese one. I haven't had a chance to go through, but it was literally just sent. So very, very, very interesting.
Not good, Eric. Not good. But what is good is a new show on Netflix called The Deadly American Family. I was just telling Eric before the show, it's a not a series. It's a one-off documentary about an Irish man who marries the au pair in Ireland. He's got a boy and a girl, and they move back to North Carolina. Our friends in North Carolina must know this case. I did not know about it. It literally goes up to 2024 in the doc. Based on they have 2 trials, and I don't want to give it away, but the wife and the father,
this is the one who died. I apologize.
Oh, that's one died. Oh yeah, that's the one they caught second. He was the second one, making it a 2-person operation, making it a conspiracy. Which it rarely is. I mean, they always not rarely is. They rarely have the people to make the conspiracy connection, and in this case. There was a second person, and now he's
no longer with us.
Now he's no longer with us. How convenient. Maybe the other one gets the message now that he could be no longer with us unless he cooperates.
It's possible.
That is possible. But so anyway, so there's a thing called The Deadly American Family. An Irish guy with 2 beautiful children marries this au pair who he hired because his wife died of an asthma attack. And then he was a husband with 2 children, and he hires an au pair. She's stunningly beautiful. He marries her. They move back to North Carolina, where she is apparently crazy and wants to get a divorce from him and keep the children. And she keeps hawking him to adopt, so she can adopt the children in case something happens to him. Well, he refuses, and it ends up that her and her father, by admission, beat him to death with a baseball bat, the 2 of them. The father is an ex-FBI interrogator and counterintelligence agent for the FBI. There's a picture of the Irish guy on the right and the blonde bombshell au pair. This is their wedding photo. This is one of the most complicated cases I've seen in a long time, where you don't know who's right or who's wrong. But well worth it on Netflix if you're looking around for something that's true crime-ish.
Yep, I'd play the trailer, but we probably get a claim.
Yeah,
so
no, they don't have to.
not gonna bother. Yeah, everybody check that out.
You might know the case if you're from North Carolina. I never heard of it, but again, a lot of these things slip under the radar.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I hadn't heard of it. All right. Speaking of things that I never thought I'd see happen, I doubt it'll go anywhere, but Donald Trump nominated for Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's over. You know, like I said to Eric before the show, finally watched Top Gun Maverick last night. And the first 2 acts, not so good. The 3rd act is spectacular. Well worth the price of admission. It's an unbalanced film in terms of action, but the 3rd act, holy crap. The stuff that's right, Eric?
I thought that they did a good job with the movie. I love the fact that the movie was not political in any way.
Yeah.
That they just, it was just a straightforward story. I love seeing Val Kilmer, make an appearance.
Oh, that was touching. That was touching. Yeah.
And they handle it really well. As a matter of fact, that movie, I went and rewatched the original Top Gun.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how good that movie was.
Oh, dude.
Because all I remember, because I was a teenager when it came out, was that Maverick was the good guy and everybody else was an asshole. But it turns out that no, he was the asshole. If you really watch the movie and pay attention, Iceman was the squared away, good soldier who deserved to be the leader. He was a team player. Right. Sorry. Yeah. Val Kilmer, who they represented as, kind of the dick, really was the good guy in the movie. And that was interesting. And the second movie, they handled the story. By the way, the younger guy that he was teaching or whatever was also in the Tornado movie.
Right. He's very good. And Miles Teller, who I said was in a previous movie playing a Hollywood producer who produces The Godfather. That's kind of an interesting turn for him as the Miles Teller character. He's very good as Goose's son, who dies in the first one. This is his son.
And a great catalyst for a storyline.
Absolutely.
It's like,
absolutely.
the revenge of the son. It's like, okay.
It's kind of, I don't want to give it away, but there's a little twist there. But the scenes in the final act with the fighter jets and what's going on there in the air is just breathtaking stuff.
Now, of course, we'll freely admit that this is obviously like our CIA in Hollywood, that this is the Pentagon and Hollywood, and they absolutely had all the support in the world. They do make the Navy look good. They make the military look good.
Well, I was trying to explain that to Mike Benz on Twitter the other day, how this works. There's a guy who they brought in as a 3rd writer, and that's the spook writer. This is a spook writer who wrote the Abscam movie with not Argo. He wrote the what was the name of that movie where they're wearing wigs and stuff like that? It's not Argo. It's the one by David O. Russell. It's a whatchamacallit. What was the Abscam movie?
Okay.
Anyway, this guy was also linked to a movie with Jennifer Lawrence called Marita, about Marita Lorenz. He writes political deep state.
American Hustle?
American Hustle. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. American Hustle, I believe, is about the Abscam scandal. But anyway, so there's one writer who they brought in, the third wheel. I was explaining to Mike Benz how this works. That's the liaison between the Pentagon, CIA, or whoever the intelligence agency who's doing it, and the production. That'll be the guy. That guy will be given secret access to certain storylines and will be the liaison to the production. And as we've explained before, the script is vetted by the Pentagon before you can get the military hardware, so that they will take out or give notes of anything they don't like. And not that this is controversial with a movie like Top Gun, but it was with movies like Salvador by Oliver Stone, who they refused to give any military hardware. And he said famously to them, you know, I served and got these awards in Vietnam for you. And they said, we don't give a shit. You're not getting the
who
stuff.
cares?
Who cares? They literally told him, who cares? So he had to rent it for an enormous amount of money from, I think, the military of El Salvador or neighboring Panama or something, wherever he bought it from. He had to pay through the nose to get the tanks and stuff that he would normally be given for free if his script was vetted and approved by the Pentagon, which of course it wasn't. But
which is scurrilous. It is propaganda.
It really is scurrilous. It is. Well, it's not even their it's not even their hardware. It belongs to the American public. Exactly. I mean, if you're going to decide what scripts get made, I mean, I think the American people should have a say in it. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right. Right.
But there's more to it, because plot lines will then be input into scripts and development, not by the Pentagon, but by intelligence agencies. Okay. And the reason I watched it last night was because this is exactly the same storyline as to what just happened with the Iranian nuclear facility.
True. Now, I'm going to address Greg Smith here because he's going to try to instigate here.
What?
Nice diversionist said of Israel and Iran resuming hostilities. Trump even said fuck at a press conference. But first, let's talk about Top Gun. Okay.
Yeah,
have you paid attention to the news after that fact, Greg Smith? Have you noticed that nothing has happened after that point? Have you noticed that there was a little bit of a skirmish, it lingered over, and now it's stopped?
I just want to say that I am talking about Top Gun and the fact that it's, if you let me finish, Greg, I am getting to the importance of Top Gun is that the intelligence agencies shaped it as a movie that is helping our allies in the region. In the script, it says that, and it's clearly the Iranian nuclear facilities that they're taking out, which is what I was leading up to before you so boldly interrupted me. That being said, is how the intelligence works its way in cinema and then into real life, mirroring military operations and political operations through this type of propaganda, which is usually very good because the intelligence agencies have a lot of money to spend. And this particular writer is probably the guy that brought that into the production in terms of the intelligence connections to the project. And this has happened many times. I was involved in one of these, obviously, with the movie The Recruit, and that could be read about in Tricia Jenkins' book, CIA and Hollywood. I hope this helps you, Greg, because the situation that Trump has ended here, this was all part of the plan from day one. I don't mean that to be conspiratorial. I don't believe that these hostilities just came out of nowhere and nobody thought about them. This entire thing was choreographed from beginning to end. And I know people thought it was the end of the world, but I never bought
that you're going to fly B-2s to Guam and they're actually going somewhere else. And every
no,
other
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about giving Israel the green light to go into Iran, to soften it up, and then to take these incredible planes and do what they did with these bombs of the Iranian nuclear facilities, and then call for an immediate ceasefire and then end this thing. This is a masterful piece of work by Trump, who, again, don't keep in mind, this is super early in his administration to get this behind him. He did this with Soleimani. A lot of presidents do this early on to show peace through strength, which is what he's done. He's now moved on to NATO. He's going to put an end to this storyline one way or another. And, you know, he's a little pissed off because there's still some firing going on, which always happens at the end. You want to get your last licks in, right, Eric, before the ceasefire.
Sure.
Ask Putin and Zelensky about that. But historically, these things, you know, there is some firing after a ceasefire. I mean, but what I'm saying is the entire thing was choreographed. You know, for 2 or 3 weeks, this was a project between Israel and their closest ally, the United States, working hand in hand to get rid of the Iranian nuclear facilities. This is how they did it. And I think it was magical. The amount of people that jumped on his ass, it shocked me, really shocked me how quickly many of these MAGA people tore Trump to pieces. I mean, I was totally, and still are. I was totally shocked how quickly it happened, how radically it happened, how ferociously it happened. And it may have been the best thing to come out of this thing, to see who these people are and how quickly they would undermine Trump in a hair split second if they wanted to. I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked how fast they went after Trump on this thing. And now, as I said to Eric when this thing started, they're going to claim that their ferocity was what drove Trump to end this thing. And of course, Jason Whitlock was the first out of the gate saying this, exactly what I just said, that their ferocity caused Trump to pull the plug on this boots on the ground World War III scenario.
Well, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an arrogance in my opinion, or narcissism, to say that your opinion is so important that, you know, you stand above the president of the United States. I mean,
these are massive historical.
I was worried either way. I was worried about the whole situation, and I you know, said that.
But I was 80% certain that this was the way it was going to end. And I said that to you. There was a 20% chance of it getting out of control, and it still could be the violations of ceasefires,
still
whatever.
Can. I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. But nobody saw this coming. How quickly that Trump bottled this thing up and ended it with his secret mission, right out of Top Gun, to get back to the movie, which is why they make these movies. That the entire thing was so magically handled militarily. I'm talking about. I don't mean about magic, but
yeah. Can we clarify on that too? By the way, when we're giving credit where credit is due on an operation, same way that
absolutely.
This is it's not a judgmental thing. It's saying it's a well operated.
Oh my God,
brilliant operation.
I never. And this is weird because after I watched Top Gun, but last night, combined with the military operation, combined with Trump's handling of it, I felt proud to be an American. For not that I'm not proud all the time, but I felt proud because of the success of that military operation, if you know what I mean, Eric. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it wasn't an embarrassment. We've had so damn many.
Right, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I felt proud that they pulled it off flawlessly.
And honestly, I'm surprised that it didn't leak, because we have so many leaks. Like, there are literally leaks coming out today from intelligence people that are a huge problem. So Hegseth must not have talked to anybody inside of his camp at all, because everybody's been talking about how that's leaking like crazy, Signalgate, blah blah blah, all that. He managed to keep his mouth shut, and nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, I mean, but I was watching Greg Kelly last night. He talked about, he had on one of these B-2 pilots, and what they have to go through flying 24 hours with 7 refills out of Missouri.
They flew out back too.
Yeah, I mean, and then flying back with the refills of filling up the tank 7 times. I mean, and there's nowhere to sleep. I mean, what an operation! I mean, really amazing. Again, what he's done, Trump, and people have, because of their own narcissism or their own grift or whatever the hell they're up to, have not seen the gravity of what he's pulled off here. I mean, in terms of showing peace through strength, in terms of demonstrating the incredible military might of the United States, in terms of dealing with Israel and Iran, and it's an amazing piece of military demonstration on the part of Trump from point A to point Z.
Well, Trump and obviously Hegseth, obviously.
Yeah, well, his people.
Dan Cain, was it Raising Cain? I mean, the general deserves a lot of credit. I think he was putting it, together.
Everybody involved in this thing, Eric.
And Israel. Sorry, but they were very much a factor. They softened up the targets. They allowed the planes to fly in, secure that they were probably not going to get shot down or hit.
This was in the works for years. This is not something that came out, it was triggered by October 7th, but they took out Hamas, they took out the Houthis, they took out Hezbollah, and that left Iran. Nobody came to Iran's aid. Not one missile was fired during the what Trump is calling, he wants to name it the 12-day war, which will probably stick, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to call it the 12-day war.
Trump is the master brander.
Dude,
he
branded this thing. He said it like 3 times. This is the 12-day war.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Well, because of the connotation of the 7-day war, Israel, obviously.
It was a 6-day war, but that's close enough. This is a little bit longer. And there may be some violations. That being said, I think he's got this
I haven't
thing.
heard anything other than the exchange this morning
at the beginning.
And after he went off about it. I haven't heard anything since. So
I think this may prevail. And so many people quickly jumped out the window. It was astonishing to see the denunciations. I mean, Dave Smith calling for his impeachment, others calling for his incarceration. On the MAGA right. Now, I'm not talking about the crazy people on the left. I'm talking about the MAGA right.
Dave Smith, I'm not going to call him MAGA right, but I do want to share something because, Dave Smith, his impeachment and everything. Well, I guess Tim Pool just talked to him today.
Oh, wow.
So let's see where Dave Smith is now.
Oh, no.
At this moment, let's see how he's doing. How's he handling things?
Did you vote for Trump?
I did.
Do you regret it?
A lot of people made a big deal that I did say that I regretted it the other day. Look, voting to me, I have a different kind of theory of voting than most people do. I think it's kind of like, look, either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump was going to be president. And I do, you'll have to wait till the end of the 4 years. And if this is the end of this war, then overall right now, I'd probably say, yeah, we're still better off that Trump's in there than if Kamala.
Did you?
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, David Smith. I thought you might enjoy that.
I do enjoy this douchebag. I mean, he may be douchebag of the year, possibly douchebag of the decade. I don't know what his competition is.
Well, let me put it this way: he has managed to, through what he's been doing, get on Tucker Carlson. I believe.
Oh yeah.
He's on Joe Rogan. I mean, he's on like a revolving door with Joe Rogan all the time. Think of how much his presence has been online. That he's the #1 guy. He beat Douglas Murray. So that means he is automatically somehow owning the narrative of anything dealing with this. So I would say he did a pretty damn good job if you're looking at raising a profile.
Well, one of the side benefits of this entire thing is outing all these non-loyalist Trump backers or phony Trump backers and shaking them out of the tree.
Crowder went to town today on everybody.
Oh,
people might want to check that out.
Good for him. I saw him going after Candace Owens.
Yeah, I shared that with you. Now, I do want to admit, I always want to give the other side, or if there's any kind of mitigation. Crowder has a personal issue with Candace Owens as well because she intervened with his divorce. So when his divorce was happening, she was attacking him like on the wife's part. So I will always acknowledge there could be something personal there. I think that his attacks on her make sense, but I will always say, yes, there is something personal there too. So,
yeah, I mean, that being said, I was shocked and depressed how quickly these people turned against Trump. I really was. I was just, first of all, I was stunned how quickly and ferociously they turned. And I'm just going like, what am I missing here? Every president since going back before Clinton has done stuff like this. Whether it was wag the dog with Clinton or Trump and his going after the Syrian airfields. There's always been this stuff at the beginning of in people's terms who are presidents. Obviously, there was a debacle with Bush and Cheney, But there's a bloodbath, World War III, going on in Ukraine right now, as Trump again pointed out on Air Force One. Like 1,500 people died yesterday in Ukraine, and nobody's yelling bloody murder, because a lot of it is this insane hatred towards Israel by elements of the far right in this country. And it's just crazy. It leaks in with anti-Semitism and anti-Israel. And I hope that Trump has put a stake into this thing for a while.
My main issue is I feel like people weren't expressing concern and caution. Now, I'll give you an example. Dan Turrentine of Two-Way, I thought, he gave a challenging point. He said, look, I see what's going on here, but I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If you do this and this happens, what next?
Yeah.
It was concerned. Now, that was a fair criticism, and that was a fair thing. But the whole thing, we're in World War III, declaring it completely. I'm like, well, he literally said no boots, all this stuff. Saying
right, but
I'm
the
worried
point of the
it could
matter
lead up
is
to
he can't tell you his secret military plan, Dan. And I don't mean to pick out Dan. He can't tell any of it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You either trust this guy or you don't trust this guy for this type of stuff. I said I'm throwing in with this guy, for better or for worse. I am. Do I worship him? No. Is he flawed? Yes. I mean, has he made mistakes? Obviously.
Wait a minute. You mean we've criticized Trump in the past?
Yes. But when it comes to something at this level, this level and these stakes, I don't know the intelligence, the military intelligence he's dealing with. And based on a history of having lived long enough through these conflicts in the Middle East, I got to at least give them a day to explain to me what's going on before I call for his impeachment. I mean, the left.
Speaking of that, good news.
What?
Here's the latest on his impeachment.
Oh, boy.
Let's see. On this vote, the yeas are 344, the nays are 79. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Oh, boy. Well, that was quick. Hold on.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 530, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Calendar number 34. House.
Okay, so what this is, just so it's convoluted how they say it, because it's 344 to 79, yay to nay. The resolution is to table the impeachment. So they voted to throw the shit out. So that's a good day for Trump.
Even the Democrats voted for him.
Yes, as a matter of fact, 79 Democrats voted for him.
Right. This is going to push Trump up in the polls into allowing him to do other things internationally and domestically. He said today that Putin called him about Iran. He says, "You're calling me about Iran?" He said, "I don't need your help on Iran. I need your help with you." And he went, "Okay." And he basically said, "I'll get to you next, bro. Right now, I'm dealing with this. I'm going to NATO, and then I'm going to deal with you and Zelensky." Apparently, he's going to settle that thing next.
Well, I think that's why he's at NATO, because if he can, then it clears the decks. It's like everything is out there.
I think he wants to clear the decks, Eric, so he could work on domestic policy.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's smart. Well, it also it puts him in a position of strength. If he's known as Trump the peacekeeper, Trump the deal maker, and then he comes back and focuses attention, it gives him a lot of credibility.
You're right. Showing overwhelming military force in this particular incident will allow him a grace period for a long time before anybody does anything like this, I believe.
Yes. Now, it's obviously people are still going to muck about. I don't trust Iran. Iran's going to do things, but if they're weak enough, I think an example, people were talking about Lebanon, that essentially Israel just every time Lebanon, Hezbollah does something, they just go boom and spank it down. If you keep it small enough, they call it mowing the lawn.
Oh yeah.
If they can keep things down. Also, if Syria and somebody else want to join the Abraham Accords now.
Oh, weird.
So that's what I understand.
Well, I mean, keep in mind,
if everybody isolates.
Do you
Iran.
feel safer or not safer that Israel took out the Syrian nuclear facilities, took out the Iraq nuclear facilities, and now with the help of their ally, the United States, have taken out the Iranian nuclear facilities. Does anybody feel safer in the world that all three of those countries might have had a nuclear weapon? I mean, come on, give me a break. Even the Chancellor of Germany said Israel's doing our dirty work for us. When was the last time you heard that from the Chancellor of Germany?
Yeah, and for all those who were saying, okay, well, they just wanted as a deterrent, it'd be like, keep this in mind. Saudi Arabia already said, if they get one, we get one.
Yeah.
And every other country in the world, Australia, they'll need to get theirs. Every other country in the world is going to have to grab theirs too, because Iran got one. So now the whole world can have nukes.
Yeah, and I think there's a quantitative difference between America first and America completely isolated on the planet Earth. I think those are two different things.
Oh, you mean it's not American? It's American first, not American only?
Yeah, I don't understand how America first morphs into the complete isolation of America to where nothing matters around the globe, and we just sit here concerned with roads and fixing things in our own country as if the rest of the world's not going to keep moving. I don't I mean, I'm not for going into war. Look, I'm completely opposed to the Ukraine war. I've been there since day one, taken a lot of heat for it. But this thing is not Ukraine. This thing is not the attack on Russia and Russia attacking Ukraine and the coup d'etat that we pulled off in the Ukrainian government and the encroachment against Russia, moving closer and closer to their border. This is a separate issue to this. And, anyone who says you're a neocon, but you're against the war in Ukraine, that's hard to make it stick.
Now, I do admit it is possible, I don't know for sure, though, that Russia is bogged down a little bit with Ukraine, and that did help keep them out of Iran and Syria.
Who knows? We don't really know.
Because they're sort of busy right now.
We know there's over 1 million dead, and nobody seems to give a shit. We know that nobody's got any film footage of it. We know that it's not on TV like the Vietnam War. We know that this is being done intentionally by the West to have this trillions and trillions of American dollars going into this bottomless pit of this war. And yet there's surgical strikes by Israel into Iran, and people go batshit crazy. Now, you tell me what the difference is.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference?
I agree. Well, and I talked about that Van Jones clip. I'll have to dig it up later. But
yeah, Van Jones apparently on the reservation. This guy turned out to be smarter than all of them.
Well, it's credit where it's due. It was shocking. It was like the best analogy I've ever seen. But speaking of problems at home,
wait, did we take care of Greg?
I don't know.
Is Greg satisfied?
I don't know. I'm sure Greg is tickled to pink.
Okay.
But we do have other problems here, and that's New York. And New York,
this thing is so much more important right now. This is a story that may end New York. I mean, I don't know what the problem is, why nobody could run for this office or any office to block these people. If this guy wins, New York becomes London. They now have a Marxist, Islamicist mayor who has said repeatedly things that he's going to do. You'll now have a Black Panther in LA. You'll have a Marxist black dude in Chicago and an Islamicist in New York. And the most terrifying thing is they would have taken these cities without a fight, without firing a shot.
And whatever you think, and I know not everybody here is a fan of Netanyahu, but listen to the statement.
And Mayor Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for whatever he comes for, given the US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
So one of the top allies of the president of the United States,
right?
And the federal government, you as New York mayor, are going to arrest him and create a massive international incident. That's exactly who you guys want.
That's who this guy is. And I mean, people do have to go to the UN, which happens to be in New York, for various international functions. But this guy claims he's going to arrest a world leader if he sets foot in New York City, the Jewish capital of the United States. It's shocking, people. Nobody seems to give a fuck with this. I don't know how they got to stack voting. I don't know how they ended up with Andrew Cuomo. I don't know how I'm not there anymore, so I don't know what the politics of it. But the fact of the matter is, there must be, I would say, 100 or 10,000 people off the top of my head who are qualified to be mayor of New York who are normal. And not one of these gutless cowards would throw his hat into the ring to save that city and to save the United States this turmoil. That these are the only people running for these seats is really bizarre, and it shows you where we are as a culture. The fact that some normal lawyer, somebody who, it doesn't have to be Rock Hudson or George Clooney or Mel Gibson, somebody who's normal, who's got some money, who's a lawyer or it doesn't have to be a lawyer, just a regular person, couldn't put their hat into the ring to run against this guy.
Well, hold on. The New York voters are very well-read. They think these things through, Mark, as you shared with me earlier. So let's talk to one of them who's going to be voting for this guy.
I voted for Mamdani.
Okay. Can you tell us why?
I'm just looking for someone new and not part of the established Democratic Party who also hasn't been accused of sexual assault.
I spoke to the other side a little bit, and they're concerned about like the government-run grocery stores and the free buses. What's your response to that?
I think government in the U.S. is great in the sense that there's always balance, right? Like no one person is making all the decisions. And so I think there'll be balance within.
He describes himself as a Democrat socialist. Like, do you feel like socialism would work in New York City?
No, not necessarily. I voted.
No,
that's why I voted for a socialist.
But by the way,
the logic is so pretzeled. It's insane.
But there are others that, I'm sorry, I'm going to criticize the quote right, if you will, or the other side, because how many people were saying, I didn't vote for this, even though Trump campaigned on things? Like he literally said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's like they make up this in their own head. She's got in her own head that, oh, well, somebody's going to put him in.
Yeah, not the guy
He's not going to do what he said.
Yeah, the committee will stop
him.
Some abstract committee will stop him from the Soviet Politburo of New York.
Oh my God, I'm just blown away. Right.
But look, is Andrew Cuomo the best candidate for this? Of course not. But they could have stopped him a while ago by running somebody who was more palatable than him, and nobody has stepped up. It's shocking.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, one thing I do find encouraging though is our let's say ghetto member of Congress, because she acts ghetto, Jasmine Crockett. I'm sorry, she the nails, everything else, the attitude and things like that. I think she qualifies. I will seek permission from Nate the lawyer if I can say that.
That's her. I think that's her group that she represents, which is a huge group. It might be pretty politically brilliant to do what she's doing.
Well, she shifted. It's so funny because if you look at her like 4 years ago, she's just like very soft.
She's totally normal. Yeah.
But she's dropped out of the race for the top oversight committee Democrat.
Oh, thank God.
No, this is where it's funny. Why did she drop out? Well, it turns out that there were 4 people who are running for that position, and she was 4th.
Oh, that's not good.
So her own party were essentially saying, get away from this. I don't think so. You freak. Shut up. And part of the reason why this may be the case is let's look at her in action, because, again, I don't want to malign people. I think they should be able to represent themselves. So this is her way of representing.
Oh, you just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about
voted to do it.
Order. I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get clarification.
You're not recognized. Miss Crockett.
I can't hear you with your yelling.
Don't want
calm
me
down.
No,
can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise, and then
you're out of control.
Because if I come and talk
shit
about her, y'all gonna have a problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair.
How did these people get in there?
Order. Chair now recognizes.
When did this happen that these people got inside in the House?
It's proof that anybody can be a congressman.
That's
okay,
right.
I'm sorry.
4 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 minutes.
I couldn't listen to her for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
I'll recognize.
But I moved to strike her words for a second time based on her second set of personal remarks attacking another member.
Look at Jamie Raskin. Look at
Because you all
Raskin's
cannot
just going back and
see
forth like it's a
you
tennis
are-
match.
He's got his scarf is gone. Where's your bandana there, Jamie?
Oh, Raskin, you talking about?
Raskin, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he have the do-rag?
I don't know, but he's got that patch on the back of his head where they put the hair plugs in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a budget. He doesn't. He approved it from looking in the mirror.
Right.
For the committee, we have to do this every time.
I'm recognized. I'm recognized. I'm going to go ahead.
All right, I'm done with these bitches. What else you got over there? She's no bargain either, this crazy lady.
Oh, well,
She went after Trump.
lately she's been kind of, yeah. Well, that's where we are. Let me see what other stories you have. We talked about Crowder. You know what? I always get cheered up with super chats.
Okay.
So Thomas is a new member. Thank you very much, Thomas. And what do we have here? Fletcher Boy, fashionably late fee. I like that.
Pay $5 if you get in.
If everybody's going to pay $5 to be late, please everybody be late.
Greg didn't pay at all, but he was upset we were covering the release of the RFK documents. God forbid.
Yeah, no kidding. Sean Lucan saying, as always, fabulous research.
Sean,
Mark.
thanks. That jumped. Somebody, people are going through these documents and are, also looking besides myself. So hopefully they can come up with something.
Your friend Shane?
Nah, he's on to something else. I don't think he's done with this thing.
All right. John S. with a $10 super sticker or £10. So it's even, it's like more real money. It's like the opposite of Canadian. And then Sean Lucan gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships. So
you lucky bitches are now going to get a membership. You didn't even do anything, you fat fucks. This guy is busting his ass to give you memberships, including Greg.
Sean and Pew Pew and oh my God.
I said Greg's going to get a membership now, and then he'll attack us even further.
Mike Schaefer with a $10 super sticker. Thank you,
Schaefer has always been there. I mean, it's really nice to see the same people all the time. Really is.
It actually is. And it's so nice, like Pamela, almost every show. And I also see him on X and other places. And of course, locals. Mike Schaefer saying we need another movie like The Recruit or 3 Days of the Condor.
I mean, look, I did the best I could with The Recruit. I mean, I was up against the CIA, who were rewriting the script in real time. So, it's definitely a problem. There's got to be a way to keep them out of the propaganda movie business and TV. I remember even going back to 1996. I think I wrote a cover story for High Times, not that it was about drug use, but in a way it was, because Barry McCaffrey, who was the drug czar, General McCaffrey, the drug czar, was office of something and something. He and his staff were paying producers in Hollywood to put in anti-drug messages into scripts. And I wrote this expose. High Times was the one that paid me, but it was a cover story for High Times. This was really my first exposure to finding it so directly, Eric, paid propaganda messages from government officials to Hollywood itself into scripts. This happened to be an anti-drug message, so you could say, well, it's a good cause, but a lot of times they don't stop there.
Oh, good point. Mike Schaefer, this was an Israeli operation planned for over a decade, waiting for the right president.
I agree.
Abraham Accord, Gaza, Hezbollah, Syria. And
I agree.
In fact, I think it probably has been going on since Trump's first term.
Yeah.
And they were probably hoping to do this in a second term or something.
Yeah.
And, obviously there was a bit of an
good
interruption.
point, Mike. I completely agree with you. It's just shocking to me how quickly his supporters jumped on him. I was completely caught off guard by that.
Welcome to it. Let's take a brief departure. It looks like Bernie's back out on the road on Joe Rogan. I think this is new. Boy,
what is he talking about?
This is great. He's talking about climate change. So this is a nice little clip here.
You got to deal with this climate change issue.
Oh,
and I know that, there are some people who think climate change is a hoax.
Yeah, some of us do. Okay. But I'll take that from you,
The last 10 years have been the warmest.
The warmest.
Hold on. Listen.
And we can't create millions of good paying jobs transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency to solar to wind and other sustainable energies.
I think the climate change issue is very complicated. And I think, did you see the Washington Post piece that they wrote where they did this long-term view? First of all, the reality is that the Earth's temperature has never been static, right? We could both agree on that. It's always been up and down. There's been ice ages and heat waves. And then the Washington Post looked at it. What was the time period that they looked at? That essentially they found that we're in a cooling period. That the Earth over the past X amount of years, and this was like a very inconvenient discovery, but they had to report the data, and kudos to them for doing that.
Now watch. This is the oh really? I'm very interested in this new information. Please tell me more, Joe. That's what Bernie's going to say, right? He's going to say, "Oh, really? Oh, you're bringing up information."
Scientists have captured the Earth's climate change over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Oh boy.
Well, I'm not sure. No, I didn't read that article. But,
he sounds like my uncle.
You know, the scientists who are out there, I think.
I know, but there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem. There's a lot of money involved in this whole climate change emergency issue, and there's a lot of control. And that's a big part of this problem.
I'm an old man. What are you attacking me?
I don't like that answer.
I don't like to hear this. I live in Vermont. There's Ben and Jerry's. I eat a lot of ice cream. What are you bothering me with these facts for, Rogan? I came on here to bullshit.
I have millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
Okay. I forgot that. I know you like this guy here. He did a good job with Tucker Carlson. Now he's representing Jews that are voting for Mamdani.
No, I love this guy. What has he got now?
Hey everyone, I'm a Jew and I'm voting for Zohran Mamdani.
Really? You're Jewish and you're voting for him? Why?
Because I care more about being liked than being alive.
And you said you're proudly Jewish, right?
Yes.
Do you practice Judaism?
No.
Do you belong to a synagogue?
No.
Do you have a Jewish family or
No.
part of a Jewish community?
No.
Any connection to Israel?
God, no.
So why bring up that you're even Jewish?
Well, it's useful because it's technically true, so I can use that identity to give him cover.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow.
What about his economic policy?
Yes, love it.
Why do you like socialism?
Because I care more about rich people not being rich than poor people not being poor.
I see.
Wow.
Okay. So you're not concerned at all with his ties to groups that hate America?
Whatever.
Or that hate Israel and Israelis? Do you hate yourself?
Yes.
So that's what it is.
Wow, man, that is brilliant. Way to go. Bravo.
I love the line, though. I am more concerned with rich people being rich than poor people being poor.
Wow. Brilliant.
Now, I want to share this guy. This is Nathan
He's the guy that did the
Livingstone.
Tucker thing, but not to be confused with the Tucker admission he was bit by a demon story, which was just Tucker by himself. The demon attacked him in the night story.
Oh, right. Well, we've already played that one. But,
Okay, right,
but I
okay.
do have more Tucker.
Oh, go ahead.
And
What do you
this is
have now?
courtesy. This is courtesy of Nathan Livingstone, who's being sued by Andrew Tate because of all his work with Andrew Tate.
Okay,
Or
I don't know anything about it, but what do
I
you
have
got?
interviewed him, and that's coming out on Thursday for those who are interested. But Nathan Livingstone has been putting together some information about Tucker, showing his pattern, and I thought this is really nice because I don't know if you saw Tucker reacting to, when he was getting information about what was going on. Well, Livingstone pointed out how Tucker and Stephen Colbert are very similar in their dramatic reactions to news about Trump. So let's see how this goes.
Wow. Watch it right now. Here we go.
Sorry, this is so distressing. It's so distressing. It's so.
Oh my goodness.
Who could have seen this coming? I know. Who could have seen?
Oh my God.
But
okay,
I'm concerned.
I think that's enough.
Oh my God! It must be a
It's a mirror,
psyop.
even the same shirt.
This is a psyop that they're playing out on both sides of the aisle, Eric.
I thought that was remarkable. I love
Remarkable how close it is to each other.
and that was back with the tape. They grab them by the P tape.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it just shows you how close they are in tone and style.
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Anyway, that remarkable stuff. Now
we covered him being bit by a demon, right?
Oh, we absolutely did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I did
it's a
point
story
out
that
that
has a lot of bite to it.
a lot of bite, like the four dogs that were in the bed with him.
Right. They didn't fight the demon, which is, you got to congratulate those sleeping dogs letting them lie, because why wouldn't they fight the demon?
No, dude, I agree. Now,
yeah,
this is of course a professor who is instructing our friend Scott Jennings. This is Cornell West with his advanced
not brother West,
knowledge.
not brother West.
Yeah, Brother West. That's right.
Yeah,
Now, so he's gonna educate us here on some things. Okay,
Brother Jennings. Today?
Oh, you know what? I didn't put it up on the screen. I am so sorry.
Right. No, I was wondering what you were doing over there.
Well, you got to tell me, man.
Okay.
Catch me. I don't know.
And I don't think
the problem is, though, I think you'd agree with this now, that when you attack a nation like Iran, the quickest lesson one learns is to make sure you now have a nuclear weapon so you're never attacked again. That's the only reason why Israel got its weapon in 1966. That's why North Korea got its weapon. That's why France got its weapon. That's why the United States and Russia got their weapon. And for those of us to go all the way back to the United States to kill 250 million people in 2 days in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that's not a high moral moment for the.
You know what? He went to the same school as Sotomayor.
Yeah.
For math,
the numbers.
So Jamil, what do you make of that? I mean,
Scott, what do you make of the 250? I don't even think it was 250,000 as far as
they didn't even have the population. It was 250,000 approximately. They only had 72.5 million people who even existed there.
That doesn't faze him. They double killed them. They killed him so many times. Their children are dead.
That's it. They dug them up and they killed them again.
Dug them up and radiated them again.
Yep.
28 years later, coming out by this week, by the way. I'm curious to see the new zombie picture.
Okay, I saw this. This is very interesting. It's Bobby Kennedy, and he's testifying in front of Congress and calling out Democratic Representative Frank Pallone. Like I guess it's Pallone rhymes with Stallone, I think. But,
who does he represent? Do you remember? Or
I'd have to look.
I never heard this guy, but that doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's a rep. So, so many.
Yeah, so many.
Congressmen.
If I can take a minute just to respond to something that Congressman Pallone said, and I'll address you, Congressman Pallone.
Whoa.
15 years ago, you and I met. You were at that time a champion for people who had suffered injuries from vaccines. You were very adamant about it. You were the leading member of Congress on that issue. Since then, you've accepted $2 million from pharmaceutical companies in contribution, more than any other member of this committee.
Wait a minute. I'm Pallone.
And
Come
your
on.
enthusiasm for supporting the old ACIP committee, which was completely rife and pervasive,
like that suit,
with pharmaceutical conflicts, seems to be an outcome of those contributions.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
point of order. Point of order.
The chair recognizes
Point of order. The
Dr.
gentleman is impugning the reputation of a member of Congress.
Well, why would anybody do that? Sit down, fatty, that big black chick. She's got to sit down.
Can you stop the clock for a second?
Stop.
Can you state the point of order?
Yeah. He
What
was
is it?
impugning Mr. Pallone's.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't
You just
hear
stated
it.
a
Did the
fact.
gentleman-
You weren't.
This is the part I love. Mr. Chairman,
Impugning.
I didn't hear what he said.
Hear it. Did the
Oh,
gentleman?
you weren't paying attention. That's why.
Well, it's hard to pay attention here when we're not getting any responses.
Okay,
My
okay.
understanding now is that the secretary said something about me taking money from pharmaceuticals. Is
Yeah,
that what he
yeah,
said?
yeah.
The secretary implied that Mr. Pallone would
Implied.
not fight for vaccine victims because he took money from the pharmaceutical industry.
He didn't imply. He said it.
Again,
He needs to take back those words.
No,
Okay,
he doesn't.
okay, here we go, here we go,
Words
here
be
we go.
taken down.
This, Mr. Secretary, this is a valid point of order, I'm told. So I'd ask you if you would, please take back those words.
What?
They're retracted.
Now that was the saddest part about that.
Yeah.
Was why should he
I have
retract
no
if
idea.
he
What's
states
it
a
to
fact?
him?
It's like, and by the way, the Congress people can say all they want. They can spew
Yeah.
whatever vomit they want on
They have
anybody.
called him every name in the book. They've
But-
impugned his reputation. I don't know why he just didn't stick to his guns and say, no, I'm not retracting it. Do what you had to do.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
think
want
that
to know
would be-
about that fat black chick hovering over everyone in the back there. I want to know what her job is.
That's a good question. But you know what? On that same note of this, I like to show little AI, proper use of AI and videos. So here is another proper use of an AI video, which I think is fun.
Okay. Oh my God, there she is. No, Eric. Oh my God, my mother. Wow, look what she did. The whole building came down. Jesus Christ. That was a good one. I mean, Eric and I were talking during the week about the fact that I don't know, one of us was saying about how we believe the commercials are going to use this first to avoid residual payments on actors and to have fun with it and be more creative and not have to reshoot the goddamn things 500,000 times and test them before a live audience and blah, 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 blah. AI is going to come into cinema, I believe, through the door of commercials first.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's already happening. I showed you a commercial.
You showed me one. Yeah,
and here's another example. And this is AI. It could almost be seen as an ICE commercial. Let's see.
Let's see.
What's up, fuckers? I'm with United States ICE, and today we're detaining every single Juanito and Diego. Say adios tu abuela and pack your chanclas. Let us get it, boys. All right, amigos, who wants some free Modelos? The good old free Modelos trick.
Yeah, that's funny.
Gets them every time, boys. Boys, we got over 300 illegals today. Shit looked like a Kins after party got raided. Puro llorando, yelling, and somebody still passed out in the corner.
Damn.
No papeles, pero mamacitas así get a temporary visa from Bigfoot. Don't worry, boys. We don't deport Latina baddies.
All right, boys, that's it for today. My mamacita got me limpito, ya tú sabes. Like and follow me, gente. I love you.
That's funny. I mean, out here they have they opened up a new train station or bus station here, and nobody was there. The buses are empty. This guy, in a side story, this guy running a car wash in West LA was completely outraged that ICE came and arrested his illegal workers at the car wash. And people pointed out that there are car washes that are paying taxes to their legal employees, and this douchebag has not. And he's outraged that his employees, of whom he pays no taxes for, were arrested by ICE in a raid on a car wash here. This is getting very interesting because they're admitting that a taco truck raid, they arrested a bunch of guys who worked on a taco truck in front of a restaurant. And Karen Bass keeps defending these illegal alien workers who are not legally able to work because of various restraints in the law. And apparently that doesn't matter to elected officials.
Wow.
I'll just add this. They've created a gourmet food service to illegal aliens who are hunkered down in their homes in fear of ICE finding them. So they're delivering gourmet meals to their homes so they don't have to go out.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy right now out here with ICE. It's so fucking nuts. They really need the Marines with them. Eric and I were talking early in the week, what kind of tactical support in reality the Marines can provide for each of these arrests, without sending in an entire platoon for each arrest, something that would physically work on a daily basis, because they're making multiple arrests on a daily basis here. And they need to come up with a system, because the LAPD has been told to stand down. So these mobs come out of nowhere in 5 seconds and begin to surround and crush the windshields and cars and vehicles of the ICE agents, who have to pop out of their vehicles and launch tear gas to literally get out of the parking lot of Home Depot, because a mob of 100 descends on them while LAPD is standing off in the distance. So I think there's got to be some sort of military system set up for these arrests that have the Marines backing them. And 100's not going to do it. It's got to be a smaller group, Eric.
No, you can split them up. But like what we were discussing is I I was saying that you have like a spearhead, with the Marines immediately following them, and then kind of like Army or more Marines following up. So you have the spearheads who grab them, essentially toss them aside. These guys lock them up and throw, and detain them wherever they're detained, and ultimately run them through whatever system. And I recommended that new facility in the Mojave Desert, there could be a section for the protesters to hang out there too.
Well, that would be nice. Well, I've always suggested that building this facility with 2,500 beds in the Mojave for the homeless. That was my original idea. They completely shot that down because they don't want to lose the homeless who are their bread and butter here. If they disappeared into the desert, that would, and I predict they will disappear into the desert when the Olympics come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I'm
and they'll bring them back when the Olympics is over.
I don't know why the Olympics should even be there. I know. Still feel
I agree. This is going to be a debacle. She asked for volunteers from the entire city to come downtown for free, everyone in the city, to clean up the graffiti and the destruction by the rioters.
Figures, and then
because they don't have any money. They don't have any money.
Right, and she's going to demand money from the federal government, which then she's going to, skim off that money as well for the Olympics. I'm like, why don't I give it to Atlanta? There are other places. How about Dallas? How about
Variety's reporting today a pretty big film on Netflix with Brad Pitt and it's a David Fincher film. It's being done by Netflix. And she arranged for a $20 million tax loophole to bring the film to LA. In other words, giving it a $20 million tax abatement to get the film here. And this was what Trump was going for. And she has stepped up to, again, undermine and replace Trump from his own idea. If you follow what I'm saying, she is now crowing that this was her idea, when we remember that Trump came up with "Let's Make Hollywood Great Again," and he appointed Stallone and Mel Gibson and John Voight to be his ambassadors to Hollywood. They met with the heads of the studios. They came up with this idea to give massive tax abatements for films to not be shot overseas, but to be shot here. She intercepted that and now claims that she did it.
But that's what they do.
Yeah.
Remember, no taxes on tips?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Kamala Harris. Hey, no taxes on tips. Hey,
same thing. He just did the same thing, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, or we're going to give a rebate for X families of $5,000. Oh, I'm going to give one for $6,000.
Right.
It's like, come on now.
Right.
I mean, of course they do this. So, all right. One last thing, and it's just I concerned about the guy or whatever, but Scott Adams.
How's he doing?
He's kind of fighting for his life, but this is yesterday.
You can make some predictions. And one of the predictions is that the people in charge will exaggerate their successes. Does that seem fair? It's not hard to predict that, right? So there was these big attacks.
Bear with it because something happens.
You know what? I might not be able to complete the show today. Because I'm having a little bit of an event. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to have to end the show now. I'll tell you about it later, but unfortunately, I have to end the show now.
Anyway, so keep him in your thoughts. He has, I think it's prostate cancer. And hopefully he gets treatment, but he said that he was in stage 4 and wasn't sure if he was going to make it to his birthday. I think he did make it through his birthday, but hopefully he recovers. This was the first 5 minutes of the show. Okay. I don't know. But anyway, we are going to shift ourselves over to locals where we can.
Thanks for that upbeat message at the end of the show, Hunley, because now I would just want to commit.
An upbeat message.
I want to commit suicide at the end of the show. Thank you. That was.
Thank you for using the word. So that
at this point, who cares? At this point, you got a guy dying on screen.
It's not dying on screen. Anyway. All right. Well, we're going to shift over to locals. Mark is.
Oh, wait. I just want to tell you something. I got
please.
This guy, Steve Fader, on tomorrow. His writer-director friend of mine is going to tell us about working with Natasha Henstridge and all these other actors and working in the fight business with Manny Pacquiao and others. Guy's got a crazy career as a writer, director, and as a boxing manager with all kinds of famous people on What's Up with Lord Buckley. This will be our third episode after we did Hunley, which was very successful, and Viva. He's a close friend of mine, so this will be fun talking about Hollywood, a lot about Seinfeld, because he, for reasons I don't understand, has memorized every episode of Seinfeld and can recite it at the drop of a hat. So we will talk about Seinfeld, we'll talk about Hollywood, we'll talk about Natasha Henstridge and some other funny shit at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on YouTube. What's Up with Lord Buckley? And now we'll go over to locals. Thanks.
Well, hold on. Before we go, two things. One, we talked about Brad Pitt earlier, and I meant to say this. I just learned the other day, you probably already know this, but I thought it was interesting. Those who haven't seen the movie Seven, it has a very startling ending. I'm not going to say what it is, but it is very startling and it's very famous. Apparently, Brad Pitt had in his contract that they had to keep the movie, that ending for the movie, or it would void his contract. And it turns out that they were going to try to chicken out and do something different on the ending, but because he had it written in the contract, he in effect had saved the movie Seven.
I will also add that around the corner from me is the Vista Theater, which I walked by yesterday to see what was playing. It's owned by Quentin Tarantino, this magnificent Art Deco theater on the corner. And they are playing Seven by David Fincher.
Well, there you go. So perfect timing. I didn't even mean to do that. And then I have to plug my own thing too. Thursday at 5:30, I will be dropping or publishing an interview on the Eric Hunley channel. It's just my name, with Nathan Livingstone. Nathan is being sued by Andrew Tate for defamation because Nathan is the guy who's been putting together a lot of videos of Andrew Tate saying different things, kind of like that video I showed earlier of Tucker Carlson with Stephen Colbert. He did it with Andrew Tate over the years. So we go deep into that. And if you're interested in that, I hope you check it out. But for now, head over to locals.